fair friends. I'm Ruby Ruse. This is Baby Bunny, and welcome to Cooking with Bunny. So, since we've all been stuck at home, self-quarantining for the pandemic that we're currently suffering through here in 2020, I've been trying to come up with some fun things to do, some vlogs and things. So I took you grocery shopping not too long ago. If you're interested in seeing my grocery shopping adventure, I'll have that linked for you either in a card up above my head or down below in the description box, or both. So I talked a little bit about how I go grocery shopping and I stretch out my food. So here I am, and I'm going to show you how I do that. So I only have a 2-person household actually. So a standard recipe that comes in a book is usually for 6 people. So it doesn't, like, how do you translate that when you only have a small household? So several years ago, in addition, I was given a gift of a book called, a recipe book rather, called Cook for a Day, Eat for a Month. And I still have it, and the recipes in this book are really, really delicious. So as you can say, it's, well, actually this is called, I'm sorry, Once a Month Cooking. Once a Month Cooking. So like the other recipe book that I shared with you on my grocery shopping excursion, the Saving Dinner book, as you can see, this book is so old it's falling apart. Like the Saving Dinner book that I mentioned in my grocery shopping excursion, this one also gives you a shopping list, but Saving Dinner gives you not only the main course in the shopping list, but it also gives you the side dishes. So the Once a Month Cooking does not give you the side dishes. So, and the other thing, I'm going to be honest with you, the Cook for a Day, the Once a Month Cooking is quite a process. Like, it's a thing. And for a lot of working mothers, I found that it was really difficult to do, and unless you have a separate freezer, it's just really not feasible, because I fill up my tiny little freezer, the tiny freezer. I fill that up just with 6 recipes, usually. So unless you have a separate freezer, it's hard to do the Once a Month Cooking. But a lot of people do it and they love it. Like, I've run into other people that know about the Once a Month Cooking and they love it, and we talk about it. And it really is great to have food where if you have unexpected guests or somebody wants to come over, although nobody should be coming over this time in this day and age. But you always have something to fix for dinner, so it's really, really great. So I really love the Saving Dinner program, but there are a few recipes that are just not my favorite. So occasionally I will go back to the Once a Month Cooking cookbook because it has some really delicious recipes in there that I use from time to time. So, and it is the reason that I took the Saving Dinner recipes and started splitting them in half and splitting them in half and freezing one half for later and then cooking the other half for today. So, which I think is great. Now, I realize that most people are not two-person households. So, what my suggestion would be is that if you decide to go with a meal planning system, I would recommend that you pick 1 or 2 recipes, or if you're feeling really industrious, you can do the whole thing and just double the recipe so that you can prepare half of it for the meal that you're cooking that night, and then you have another half to use at a later time. I really think that it's amazing, like especially when you're on the go or you've had a really busy day or something's come up, or even like right now, they really don't recommend that you go out to the grocery store more than once every 2 weeks, because it's just, you just want to keep your exposure down as much as you can. So it's great to have a freezer full of food so that you do not have to go out for pretty much anything. So I am actually down to, when I last showed you, I only had 1 meal left, but now I have several meals stacked away. What I like to do with the Saving Dinner system is usually in her system, she does have meal plans for vegetarians. So she has more than 1 menu mailer available, so I highly recommend that you visit her website to see if her system can work for you. So she usually, but in the standard meal plan system, she usually includes a beef dish, sometimes a chicken dish, sometimes a ground turkey dish, and then she has a completely vegetarian option, a crock pot option. I don't really like crock pot meals. It's just not my thing. Some of them are okay, but not, I'm not a crock pot person. I just don't like the flavor of it. So, and then she usually has a fish as well. So usually what I do is I take the most perishable items first. So I'm not Catholic, so I don't have to worry about saving the fish for Friday. So usually I cook the fish first because fish is best when it's fresh. Then I go to the chicken, and then I will go to the ground meats. Usually I will do the beef first and then the turkey. And then I will save the vegetarian meal for last, because especially if the vegetables are not, if they're canned or frozen, then I can wait until I've gone through the more perishable items first before I cook the vegetarian dish. So what we're making today is we are making biscuit beef bake from the once a month cookie. And I'm just, the first instructions, I always use a recipe. I mean, sometimes I add my own things to it, but I usually use a recipe. So we're browning up this ground beef, and I'm going to check the and this is a 2-part meal. A lot of the once a month cookings are you do preparation first and then you cook the second part later, and I apply that to the Saving Dinner too. So for instance, if it calls for browning the chicken and then baking it after you brown it, then I will brown the chicken, freeze half that chicken just brown, not fully cooked, and then when I take it out of the freezer, then I'll do the final baking process. So with this meat, it said to brown the ground beef. This was really lean, and once I mixed in the onions and the garlic, there really isn't a lot to drain off because the meat was really, really lean to begin with. So that's, I'm not draining it, keeping all the fat in it. So it calls for black beans and corn, which I'm going to keep these cans over to the side. I'm going to rinse them out later for recycling. It's always, especially with canned beans, it's always a good idea to rinse them off because they tend to package them with salt. Really, to be healthier, it's probably a better idea to like cook your beans from scratch. If you have a pressure cooker, it's really easy to cook beans, but it does take time to do that. So you know what, if you're a working mom, just rinse the beans. Just rinse them. It's fine. So what I really like about both the once-a-month cooking options and the saving dinner recipes is that usually they're really pretty straightforward and easy to do. So I'm going to stir all that in. I actually have another pan that's exactly like this one because a lot of times when I'm cooking I will use two separate pans. It just makes separation easy, and then there's a lot of stuff in here right now, a lot. There's a lot. So now we're looking at the spices. I need 2 teaspoons of chili powder. What are you singing about, Crowley Cat? Can you hear my cat singing in the background? She's singing. Sometimes when they're hunting a piece of string or a feather, they'll sing. Are you singing? What are you singing about? She's on the floor here. Yeah? You want to be picked up? You do? But I'll have to wash my hands. When Crowley was a little baby, she would like to be picked up. Can you see her nursing on me? Sometimes she still nurses. She's a little orphan girl. And she's all done. Now I have to wash my hands. See. Now I need cumin. I'm running low on cumin, it looks like. And salt. And that's it. It's not all that exciting. But this is a really great recipe. It's super easy. And it's delicious. Telling you. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to let that simmer for 10 minutes. So while that's simmering, in this dish, all that I put in was onions, ground beef, garlic, a can of black beans, a can of corn, and a can of Mexican-style stewed tomatoes. Then with the spices that I mentioned, the chili powder, the cumin, and the salt. And now it's just simmering and doing its thing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a plastic bag. Now, I'm real careful about using plastics, and in fact what I do with my plastic bags is just like in the Great Depression era. I wash these plastic bags. Don't even think about it, Mr. Castiel. Castiel likes to get up on the counter and he's a brat. Don't do it. Don't. the brat cat. So I will wash these and dry them. Yes, I do. And I reuse them until I can no longer use them. So it's just like washing a dish or washing a pot or washing a plate. It's very sanitary, provided that you're using good soap. So I use these until they die. So particularly, I often double bag things too. So this is going to be my outer bag, and why that's important is I actually have a Sharpie marker here, and I'm going to write the cooking instructions on this bag so that I can make up my meal pack. Alright, so this is going to be difficult to read from out there, but basically what I do is I put the date on the bag so that I know when I prepared it. Although I usually go through them pretty quickly, but it's always nice to know when you made it. Then I put what it is, because sometimes it's real difficult to tell what it is. And then I place the instructions. So it says here, place in a greased pan, mix biscuits, spoon on top, bake for 20 minutes at 400 degrees, which I forgot, so I'm going to have to put that on there. And then serve with baked apples. I added it on there now. Bake at 400. I really think that cooking is magical. I actually don't work with a lot of like herb magic and things like that. My magic, I feel, is cooking. So a lot of times when I am stirring, I put good intention things, you know, usually I'm cooking for my son, so, you know, I pour all of my energy and love for him, caring, nurturing, good health. So in addition to all of the ingredients, as you're putting that in there, the idea is to put your intentions in your food as well. And when I eat, I don't think any kind of God or some kind of great creator or anything like that. I actually think the products that I used. So obviously I'm using ground beef, so I do eat meat. That's a whole another video probably, which I won't make. So I do eat meat, so I thank the cow for providing for me. I thank the corn that grew in the fields. I thank the tomatoes that grew on the vines. I thank the earth and the spice that grew the spices for me. These kinds of things. So I'm grateful to all these products. And I will say one thing regarding the fact that I eat meat. I believe that plants are sentient. I speak to plants, I sing with plants. So to me, they are just as much alive as an animal is. So I see them as souls, I feel them as souls, I communicate with them. So just as I do animals. So just because something is more removed from you does not mean that it's a sentient or important life form. So hence I don't, I eat meat, because if I don't eat meat, and if I just eat plants, I'm eating the souls of plants, I'm eating my friends. So it's either eat or die. So I show my gratitude to each of those beings that I took their lives in order to feed myself, and I am grateful to them. Even though I do use recipes, I will warn you that you do not want to eat fairy food, because if you eat fairy food, you won't ever want to eat anything else again. Actually, some of my things are hit or miss, to be honest. So, now comes the splitting part. So I'm going to make this flat in the pan. I'm going to look at this, and I already have greased my pan. It says in the book to use cooking spray. I have an aversion to cooking sprays. I don't think they're very good for the environment. So I have coated this with a little bit of olive oil. So now I'm going to take half of this and fill my pan. And now comes the biscuit part. In this particular recipe, because like I said, these are all set up for working mothers generally, or working fathers, whoever does the cooking. It recommends that you use refrigerated biscuits pre-made. I don't really like that, and I think that biscuits are pretty easy to make. So I've already actually put in biscuits are really easy. Biscuits are essentially flour and baking powder. That's about it. And butter. There's butter already cut into this. And then some milk. So I have my buttermilk all ready to go here. So I'm gonna just throw that in. And this has actually I already separated that out. So the only thing with biscuits is that you don't want to over mix them. But they're so easy to make. Now with regular biscuits, you roll them out on flour and then you cut them into a round shape. But I'm actually not going to do that in this case. So this is what biscuits look like. Can you see that there? They're just kind of messy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to plop that over the top. And actually, I think that making the biscuits from scratch and having this flaky top, I like it better. I just think it cooks better. I think it tastes better. It's just all around just better. Alrighty, we're going to pop this in the oven for 20 minutes. And while that's cooking, I can start putting some things away. Alright, and we'll see you in another 15 minutes. Alright, well the timer has gone off. And there we have it. I'm going to set this on the wooden cutting board. Since that is completely nuclear, while it cools off a bit, I am going to get another one of my plastic bags. And since that other half is now cool enough, I'm going to load that in to a plastic bag. And then what I'm going to do is that bag that I wrote the instructions on earlier is I'm going to put the meat mix and my biscuit mix, and it says on here that all I need to do is add 1/4 of a cup and 2 tablespoons of buttermilk, and put that in the bag with it. And now I have another meal pack to put in my freezer. So usually what I do is I have the very top shelf is the coldest, so I put the newest one up there to really freeze solid. And that way when it's frozen solid like this one is, then I can stack it like cards in my freezer, and I can easily just scoot the other one on the very bottom so that I can eat them in the order that they were made. So that is how I am stocking. Castiel is in the freezer. That is how I am stocking my freezer. Actually, I have been doing this for many years. I didn't start doing this during the pandemic. So let me know in the comments below if you have tried freezing meals during the pandemic, or if you've done it before. And if you haven't been freezing meals, let me know if you give it a try. Thank you so much for joining us. I do hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel. Probably what's going to happen is after the pandemic ends and we're all back to work, I'll probably go back to making one video a week. So there you'll see a lot of things about fairies and some divination readings and that kind of thing. So until next time, I hope you've enjoyed my sharing my life with me as we're all quarantined together. Until next time, have a fairyful day. And Bunny says, have a fairyful day too. Thanks so much for joining us.